To Chit Chat with a Cup of Plants. My name is Caro, and on this section of my YouTube channel, every new moon I will be dropping a new episode, and the one we will be doing an elixir drink together. I will show you all the steps and the recipe, and afterwards we will dive into a conversation together. Every new moon I will bring up a new topic which will be related both to the drink that we make as well as the conversation that we have. So today we will be diving into a conversation, and we will also be making a drink related to self-care. What I mean by that is we will be talking and drinking everything related to relaxation, soothing, and at the same time feeling at peace with ourselves. So grab your ingredients, get some comfy clothes, and let's get started. So today we will be working on a self-care latte, and the ingredients we will be using are 4 or 5, and that is totally up to you. And this self-care latte is going to be a wonderful elixir for us to drink to help us relax, soothe, and cool down our nervous system, while at the same time uplifting our mood and even connecting us a little bit deeper with our intuition. We will be using Blue Lotus, which is also known as the flower of intuition. Blue Lotus is a wonderful ally to help us relax, to help us cool down our nervous system, and at the same time, it helps us heighten our awareness. We will also be using rose. I will be using both rose powder as well as rose buds, food grade rose buds. And rose has been used worldwide as an anti-inflammatory nervine, which is also wonderful to help us uplift our mood. We will also be using some coconut cream powder, and if you feel called to use any milk of your choice, I will be using some almond milk as well. We will be using coconut cream because it is full of healthy fats. Thanks to the MCT, it is a wonderful, nourishing ally for our guts, our skin, and even our brain. And last but not least, we will be using Happiness, which is a dopamine and stress relief tonic made out of mucuna, albizia, rhodiola, ashwagandha, and St. John's wort. And overall, Happiness is a tonic that helps us stabilize hormone function, dopamine, serotonin, and it also gives us an overall soothing effect on the nervous system. The first thing that we will be doing is get some filtered water and boil it, and we will start by steeping our Blue Lotus. First, we will add our hot water to the teapot. And then we will let our Blue Lotus steep for about 5 to 7 minutes. I added a teaspoon. While our Blue Lotus is steeping, we can go ahead and start doing the rest of our concoction on our cup. We will be using half a tablespoon of our rose powder, or maybe a little more. And then we will be adding a tablespoon of coconut creamer. I will also be using a tad of my almond milk. And it's totally up to you if you want to use any sweetener of your choice, as roses and Blue Lotus and the coconut will already give it enough of a sweet flavor for me. I won't be adding any extra sweetener. And we will also be adding our Happiness tonic. Before using, make sure to shake well your tonic and then add around 50 drops for your drink. Now that our Blue Lotus is steeped, we will be adding just a tad to our cup. And now we can start frothing. I don't even know if that's a word. will be adding a little more coconut cream powder as I want it to be a little bit more silky. We will top it off with our steeped Blue Lotus. And as the magic is on the details, we will be adding some rose petals, a little bit of rose powder, and a little bit of Blue Lotus petals as well. And we got it! Our drink is ready for us to enjoy. Welcome! So now that we have our Blue Lotus, Rose and Happiness latte ready, I want to invite us both to dive into a conversation about self-care. The first thing that comes to mind when I think about self-care nowadays is this branded idea of self-care that we have been bombarded with in all platforms, from the internet to influencer content to sponsored content to riding the subway and seeing ads everywhere. I feel that nowadays there is this very curated idea about self-care, which is talking about how we always need to buy something new in order to reconnect with ourselves and in order to be able to take care of ourselves. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against these self-care brands. I use a lot of self-care products myself, but I think that self-care goes way beyond this curated idea of having to buy something in order to feel our best self. I feel that the most important self-care are all the rituals and routines that we can do for free in our day-to-day life. And just sitting down here with you and talking about different topics every new moon is a way of self-care. When I think about self-care, I think that the main objective for myself in order to achieve well-being is when I'm not overthinking, when I'm not coming from a place of fear, but rather I'm acting from a place of love. So self-care for me is a reflection of me being able to step back into my heart space. And what do I mean by stepping back into my heart space? I mean by doing every action that I do based off love and not based on fear, as well as reconnecting with my intuition. And when we come from a place of the heart, I also think that one of the things that we start doing is asking ourselves, what do I need today? How does caring for myself look today? And that for me is one of the most important things. Just like the moon, just like the ocean, we also have cycles and every day looks different. And self-care can not only look different for each of us, but it can also look different each and every day that we wake up. And by that I mean that some days taking care of myself means that I need to push myself harder and I need to hustle and wake up at 4 a.m. and get out of my comfort zone and do those things that I don't feel so comfortable doing. And some other days self-care for me looks like taking a step back, not using social media, resting, going to bed early, not hustling, detaching myself from work, not overworking again, spending time in nature, spending time with my friends, not using technology. So with these, I just want us to think again about how we have different cycles and different needs every day. And this really gets me thinking on, I've been seeing a lot of posts on social media talking about canceling people out of our lives. And as far as I understand where these posts are coming from, and I do totally understand that there are toxic people around us and we have the capability to take a step for ourselves and detach ourselves from those toxic people. But I also feel that sometimes these posts might be inviting us to cut out the harsh conversations. So sometimes not talking about toxic people, but talking about people that you feel conflict with. Sometimes the conflict is not only coming from them, but also from ourselves. And I do believe that there is something very important about having those hard conversations with others and not just canceling people randomly, but also giving the opportunity to listen to their perspective of things, because we might be the ones that are in wrongdoing and we might not even be able to realize that at the moment. So sometimes I believe that self-care does look as having those uncomfortable conversations, and sometimes self-care can look like binge watching Netflix and eating a whole pie of pizza, but also sometimes it can look like pushing ourselves harder to, I don't know, work out, even though I don't want to work out because I know my body really needs it. Or sometimes I actually do need to eat healthier foods because that's what I'm needing and craving. So I think it's pretty important that we take into consideration that we work in cycles, and for each different moment, we can just ask ourselves, how does taking care of myself look today? And what do I need from a place of love, not from a place of laziness and not from a place of fear? And this gets me thinking a lot about, I feel that self-care can be divided in two main topics, one of them being taking self-care of our physical body and taking care of our spiritual body. And I know that a lot of things intertwine in between these two aspects of ourselves, but it also helps me when I'm journaling, when I'm checking in with myself, to see where am I tuning out, where am I out of balance, and where can I invite more harmonization. So when we talk about our physical body, I really like to ask myself, how much and how many healthy foods am I eating? How much movement am I inviting to my body in my day-to-day life? How much sleep am I getting? Am I keeping a habit of good hygiene? And I really want to touch base on what I just mentioned about what am I eating. I think it's quite important for us to check in with ourselves, thinking about what we are eating for our physical body as well as what we are consuming. We are also consuming all the things that we watch in our TVs, on the social media, on YouTube, like here today. So I think it's also important to know what we are feeding our inner being and our outer being with, which gets me into the topic of self-care for our spiritual body. And with that, I invite the question of how much time am I giving myself? How much time on my day-to-day life am I using to have a me date? I believe that one of the most important things, not only for self-care, but for self-love as well as for creativity, is self-contemplation, is spending time with ourselves and getting to know what we like, what we think, what we don't like, to awaken our interests, to give ourselves the time and space to paint or cook or create or realize how can we or how we want to be of service to our community, to our loved ones, to ourselves. So yes, self-contemplation, I believe, is one of the most important tools and free tools that we have for self-care. And on the topic of listening to ourselves, this gets me thinking about if we are giving ourselves the space to meditate and to start tapping into those moments of silence, those moments of reconnecting with our breath. And that gets me thinking about the question, do I have any connection to a higher power? I believe that when we connect to a higher being in the universe, whichever religion you might be from, or if you don't have a religion, but you have a connection to Great Spirit, to the universe, to Mama Earth, to whatever form, shape, or name it takes for you. I do believe that having a connection to a higher being really reconnects us to why are we here flying in this rock in space. And I believe that when we can tap into this higher power, we also remember our purpose in this life. And in that way or another, I believe that the more that we can caress ourselves, the more that we can take self-care and self-love of our well-being, is that the next step always ends up being, how can I be of service to my community? So I think that thinking about self-care is not something selfish. On the contrary, I believe that the more healthy our spiritual and our physical bodies are, and the more that we love them, the more that we are strong, powerful, motivated, inspired, and capable to do something in the outer worlds. So something like putting a video out on YouTube, or cooking a meal for someone, or listening to a friend, or organizing what your community is needing, making space to just start tapping in and working with your community. I believe that community work and empowerment is one of the most amazing tools that we have for self-care, because I think also a lot about where do I end and you begin. I do believe in what the Amazonian and what the cosmovision from the Amazon believes, that is that we are all connected and we are all one. And when I take care of me, I take care of we. So I don't think that this topic is something selfish. It's the first step that we need. We need to understand our foundation in order to feel inspired, in order to empower and nourish our bodies, so then we can be of service to our communities. So that's, and before finishing this video, I would love to invite you, and this is something that I will also be doing myself right after this video, which is an invitation to journal for a little bit on the following questions. So I invite us all to journal for a little while, or for as long as you wish, on the following questions. How am I feeling today? How am I taking care of my physical body? How am I taking care of my spiritual body? So I really hope you enjoyed today's recipe, today's chit chat. I've decided to put these videos out on the new moon because the new moon always invites us to a new beginning. It's the beginning of a cycle for the moon, for ourselves, and this is the perfect time for us to sit down and reset and put intentions for the next cycle, see what shifts we are making, what is empowering us, how are we bringing more inspiration and positivity to our lives. So yes, if this is something that you like, please let me know. I would be happy to continue these videos. If this is something that you are interested on, feel free to let me know any further topics that you would like me to touch base on. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to do so. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, where I post a lot. I wish you a wonderful, happy new moon and a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for spending your time with me.